Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, hi, I'm Hayley. So not that any of my other videos have actually had any kind of theme or like similarity between them, but this one is going to be a bit different in that it's going to be a bit more discursive and kind of just a chat. I don't know, we'll see how it goes, tell me if you like it. Basically, as you saw from the title, it's going to be about how I made my university decision and kind of how I'm planning on where I'm going to go and stuff like that. And I'm basically going to break it down into like 5 sections. So the first one is decision making. The second one is like what I'm excited and what I'm nervous about. Third one is how I want to decorate my room, because that's literally one of the things I'm most excited about. I haven't gotten to decorate a room in so long. What like merch from the university I want, which sounds really weird, but like I'm literally so excited to have the university like sweatshirts and like t-shirts and everything. I'm gonna wear it all the time. And then like what I need to get and what I need to prepare. So there's 5 things and 5 sections. I'm gonna break it down. So basically, upon editing this video, I realized it was gonna be way too long as one video and no one was gonna want to watch it. So I'm making it 2 parts. So here comes part 1. So the first one is decision making. Okay, so I kind of made these cookies to resemble all the universities that I applied to. I hope you can see that they're separated into Canadian and UK universities. So the ones in the maple leaf shape are the Canadian ones, and the circular ones are the UK ones. And I decorated each of them with the university crests or like colours or logos. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, when I talk about them I'll insert the logo so you can see like where I got it from. I started off thinking about the UK and thinking that that was where I was going to go because that's where all my friends are going because I live in the UK. So the 5 that I looked at and went to visit were Edinburgh, Warwick, Durham, don't know why I said that in an American way, Durham, St Andrews and Bath. I'll talk about each of them individually for a little bit. So the first one I went to see individually was Bath, and I was really excited about it because my brother Jack actually goes there, and so I knew quite a lot about it and I knew it was kind of a place that I thought I might be interested in. I went to visit it, and what's so great about Bath is that they have such amazing sports facilities, and so like my mum and I played some tennis, which we probably weren't allowed to do, but it was great. And I went to a talk on politics and economics because what's kind of funny about Bath is that, like, I don't know if this is offensive to people who go to Bath, sorry Jack, but I just hadn't really heard of it until he went there, because it's not in any of the like Russell group or anything like that, but it's actually really highly ranked in lots of different subjects that it provides. Quite excited about that. I went to the politics and economics talk and it was really good. I was really excited about it, and yeah, as like a really sporty person I was really excited about all the sports that you could do there, so that was really good. The next one I went to see was Edinburgh. This is where my brother Charlie goes, and so clearly I have some kind of bias here. But I went to visit him not actually to look at the university necessarily for myself. I went to visit him with my friend Izzy and my mum, and I loved it. I'd never been to Edinburgh before, and I just really liked all the old buildings and how it's kind of like on this big hill. I don't know, it just like seemed really fun and like homely. At the time when I went to visit it, I actually thought I was going to be doing art at university, so I didn't get to see the politics and economics department, but yeah, it still really excited me. I thought it was really great. I mean, the only downside is that it's windy and like can be quite cold, but there wasn't really many downsides to Edinburgh. I was really excited about it. One thing that was actually quite a big consideration in all my decisions was that I initially wanted to do PPE, which is politics, philosophy and economics, but very few universities provide it. It's so specific that it's quite rare, so the university that did provide it I was kind of like biased towards. But the next one I went to see was Warwick, which is kind of like north, like Midlands of England, I want to say. Again, it was quite sporty, which I was excited about, and well ranked, and they actually do PPE, so I was really excited about that. And the talk on it was so great, it made me even more excited to study it. And I remember there being this like one long kind of path that was quite central to like where you go to your lectures, and it had just these like beautiful trees going along it, and it just really excited me. One thing that I kind of ended up not really liking about Warwick, which depends on the person, but I just didn't really like that it was a campus university rather than being like a big city like Edinburgh. And like having grown up in a city, I was quite accustomed to that, so I kind of didn't like that it was quite isolated, and then it also just wasn't super green, which is something that I care a lot about, just my opinion. The next one I went to was Durham, which is like super highly ranked, and it's often thought as like kind of, I think maybe in age, it's often thought about as a third to Oxford and Cambridge in the UK. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but that was just kind of how I felt about it. And it was actually quite a funny story about Durham. So my dad and I decided we'd take the train, and so our train tickets were like £175, which is a lot. We were like, let's okay, this is an investment to go all the way up to Durham. We bought the train ticket with my mum and dad's rail card, and on the way back this woman comes to check our ticket and our rail card and kind of pauses. She says, there's an issue with your rail card. And what had happened is it had expired, but it doesn't say it anywhere on the card, and it doesn't say it anywhere online when you're booking. So we had absolutely no idea. And she's like, I can't use this rail card. And we're like, well, I mean, can you just let it go?
Can we just make it home? We've already paid for our ticket.
She's like, nope, you have to rebook your ticket, but I'll be
really nice.
I'll let you book it just from Durham to London, like not both ways. We were like, really annoying, we've already paid a lot of money, but it's okay. And the ticket that we ended up having to get, one way Durham to London on the spot, was £375.
£375.
Oh my god, we were so angry. We didn't talk the whole way home. It was so awkward because we'd already paid so much money. It was just so bad. And spoiler alert, to be honest, I didn't end up going to Durham. So we put in so much money just to go to Durham, and I felt so bad when I told my dad eventually that I didn't want to go because we spent so much money, and I even spent more than I did like visiting Canadian universities. Crazy. Anyway, the actual university. I remember when we got there, I immediately thought it was so pretty and the buildings being really nice and old. And we went to this talk for PPE, because they did have PPE, which was really good. And the person who was meant to be doing the talk couldn't come, like the head of PPE, and so this economics teacher did it instead. And I know that that was like out of their control and not their fault. It just kind of, to me immediately, kind of struck a chord of like lack of organisation. I don't know. Anyway, the guy giving the talk just did not know anything about PPE. He could only talk about economics. And anyone who asked a question, he would literally be like,
I don't know, sorry, don't know.
And I know that's not his fault, and it's not his fault that the other person couldn't come, but it was just like, this is so unhelpful, I don't know anything about the course now, which reflected really badly. And then another thing I really didn't like is that Durham is often considered like the third to Oxford and Cambridge. So I chose not to go to Oxford because it's just not really the atmosphere that I was looking for. Sorry, I didn't mean to say I chose not to go to Oxford. I obviously didn't choose not to go, I chose not to apply. I'm not saying that I would have obviously gotten in if I'd applied. I probably wouldn't have, so just saying, sorry. But at Durham, they just could not stop comparing themselves to it. And this guy was always talking about how like we model ourselves off Oxford. And like we're any bit as good as Oxford, and I was like, dude, just be your own guy. Can you stop trying to pretend you're something else? Like, I don't know, it really annoyed me because I'd actively chosen not to go to Oxford. I don't want to go to this place that's comparing itself to Oxford all the time. And yeah, I really didn't like that. And so although it was really pretty, Durham just wasn't for me. It didn't sit well with me. And then the last UK one to talk about is St Andrews. So St Andrews, I really didn't give a fair shot, to be honest. I didn't visit it, but it's like risen in the rankings loads recently. Like I remember in some subjects it's been like ahead of Cambridge and Oxford and stuff, which is crazy and great. It's like north Scotland, like north of Edinburgh and everything. And it's supposed to be really pretty, and I think it's where Chariots of Fire was filmed. And it was definitely going to be one of my 5. I just never visited it. And I think that was an issue because also, to me, it was just too cut off. Like, you can't fly there. It's quite a small town, and I don't know, that just wasn't really what I was looking for. I was looking for a bit of a city. So that's all the UK ones. And after having done that, I think I wasn't really, I can't distinctly remember, but I wasn't thrilled with any of them. I wasn't thinking like, this is definitely where I wanted to go. I was really excited about Edinburgh, but I wasn't really sure. And then I'd always kind of like dreamt of going to an American university because it's talked about quite a lot, but always as like an ideal because it's so expensive and you often need to get like some sports scholarship or something to go there. And so although that was an ideal, it was never a possibility. And then I have 3 passports, British, Canadian and American. And I heard from someone that you could go to a Canadian university, and I was like, wow, never thought about that, I'll look into it. And when I did, I found out that it was actually much more financially viable. Like if you have a Canadian passport, it's actually in many cases cheaper than the UK, and also the application is super duper easy. This is like a hack because honestly, you don't have to do any kind of UCAS, you don't have to do any big essays like you have to do for the UK. You literally just submit your grades, and I know that that maybe doesn't sit well with people because maybe it reflects that they don't have people with great personality because they don't look at their personality through essays or whatever, but they literally just look at your grades, and that was just so convenient. Yeah, so I just submitted them. So I organised with my family. They were kind of iffy on it because obviously it's so far away, but I organised with them to go and visit them that summer, so the summer of 2018. No. Summer of 2019. If I've been talking about 2018 now, I've meant 2019 this whole time. Oops. Anyway, so I organised to go visit them, and I was actually shocked that there were some that actually had PPE. I did not think that was possible at all, given so few even in the UK where it was invented have it. And so I wrote down a list of a few that I was interested in, and then we went off to see them. The first that I went to see was Queen's, which is where my dad went. This is a Queen's t-shirt that my dad got me. And it's about 2 hours north of Toronto. It's in Kingston, and my dad had pulled some strings and he'd set up some meetings with people there and a tour. First thing, I was kind of shocked because I don't know whether this was a bit unfair, but just the way my dad had described it, I don't know, I just didn't think it was very modern. I thought it was quite like old and not like special. I don't know if that's probably really unfair, but I just kind of had that feeling. And when we went, the buildings were actually really modern because I think they get a lot of funding from alumni. They had like quite a lot of old and new like put together buildings, like extensions on old red brick buildings in like glass and stuff like that, which I thought was really cool. And it had like really nice wide streets. And I went to a talk with a person who actually invented the PPE course there, which was great. Like obviously there's no better person to talk to. And it was actually really nerve-wracking because it turned into being like an actual interview, which I had no idea it was going to be. And he was like, why do you like PPE? And I was like, but it actually turned out really great. We walked around the grounds and they have like a really cool new drama theatre or something like that. And I really did like it, but I think the issue with it was that it's not super green. And I mean, nowhere in Canada is going to be super green all year round, but also Kingston isn't a very big city. It doesn't try to be, but it wasn't quite like Toronto, quite like Montreal. And so it didn't really feel like a big enough city for me. And then the next one we went to see was McGill, which is in Montreal. I don't know, is that showing up the right way around on the camera? Hopefully.
My spatial reasoning is not very good, as you can tell.
So we drove up from Toronto, where we flew in, through to Queen's in Kingston, which is kind of halfway between Toronto and Montreal, and then went up to Montreal. Thanks Dad for doing the driving. He was aided by some Tim Hortons, of course. And the university was actually closed because obviously we were seeing them in the summer, so if we ever got any kind of interaction with people there, it was like really lucky. But despite it being like formally closed and there were like no students there, obviously, they ran like summer kind of sports programs for young kids, and so the actual like space was open because it's like a campus in Montreal. It's not like cut off completely, if you know what I mean. And so we walked around it, and they have like this one really nice, I can't remember what the name is, but they have like one main road that kind of leads out the whole university, and it's like cobblestone, and the whole university is on a hill, which is Montreal, which leads to like the big Montreal Park. I don't know if that has a name that's not that, but yeah, that's like the namesake of Montreal. So it's obviously like a big hill, but it made it such a pretty landscape. We went into like the politics building, and there was a guy working there. I asked him if he knew anything about politics or economics at McGill, and he said, oh, I actually am a student at McGill. I just did my first year and I study politics and economics. And I was like, this is the right guy. He like gave me the lowdown on what it's like and how to do a double major and stuff like that. And he said that the politics department is really good there. Like lots of people who like go in to study like completely different things end up studying politics there because they teach it so well. And so I was really excited about that. And then we walked further up the hill to like where most of the residents are. I think it's like Upper Res, Douglas Hall, and maybe another one, can't remember. And we were kind of not expecting to be able to go in, but I kind of wished I could see a residence because like I obviously just wanted to know what it looked like. And we saw this guy who was like the caretaker of Upper Res, McConnell Hall, I think. And his name, I think, was Michael. So if Michael, for some reason, is out there watching this, thanks. Because he took us around and gave us like a full tour, took us into some of the actual rooms, so like you'd know where you're actually staying. And the room he took us in like overlooked the sports field, which I really like the idea of. There was like a big sports game you could sit and watch from your room. Yeah, he kind of told us about which residents are good, which ones you don't want to, because he was like recommending against some of the like ones that are converted hotels, but I can't really remember why. He showed us around like the cafeteria as well, and the cafeteria I remember distinctly was serving Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And if you know me, you know I love Cinnamon Toast Crunch, so I was like, oh, that is a strong tick in the McGill box. And then also we ended up going into Montreal that evening. We like walked into the centre and there was the most awesome thing. So what was going on at the time was the World Fireworks Championships, and that evening was Japan, and it was literally the coolest fireworks I've ever seen. They were just enormous. And yeah, like there's always things like this going on. It's just like a cultural hub. And I was like, that's so cool. I don't know, it was just really cool. So yeah, that's McGill. And then we drove back down from McGill, and my mum and I flew to UBC, which is in Vancouver. It stands for University of British Columbia, and we stayed halfway between the airport and the university. The next morning we got up really early, went for a run, and then kind of rushed to get to our tour because we were really lucky that they were still open giving tours. They gave us like a 2-hour tour like super duper in depth, these two people who actually go to UBC. They took us to all the buildings. You were allowed to ask whatever questions you want, so I was asking about the politics and economics department and like the weather and stuff like that. It was so cool. And what I distinctly remember loving about UBC is that the buildings were all like super sustainable. Like they kept talking about how like ethical and environmental they were. Like the bricks were all reused bricks and the water they use is somehow recycled. And so I really liked that. They were like really ethical and had the most amazing views of the mountains, and obviously it's right near Whistler. And they had a really good exchange program, so I was really excited about the prospect of doing an exchange to like maybe the US or something. So that was really exciting. The downside to UBC, and this was kind of a no-brainer, like it was quite obvious. My parents were very accepting. I mean, going to Canada, like all for it, but it's very far away. And UBC is just that bit further. It's a 5-hour flight from Toronto, so it's like a 12-hour flight from the UK, and another 3 hours time difference is just not that great. And so my mum made it pretty clear that she wasn't that keen on me going that bit further, which I understand. So that was kind of a big downfall of UBC. And then the last university I went to see was University of Toronto, or UofT. It's my UofT t-shirt that I bought when I visited it. We like drove down from our cottage, which is like 2.5 hours north of Toronto, to go visit it. Again, we got a really in-depth tour. We were so lucky. And what I really liked about the University of Toronto is that it's like right in downtown Toronto. I don't know how I've never noticed that before because I've been to Toronto so many times, but it's like right there, and it's these huge like old buildings. Yeah, all the buildings were so nice. I was like kind of shocked. I'd never even realized it. And they had like free sports facilities like yoga and a gym in every like residence that's free every day, and that sounded really great. They actually had PPE, and a lot of my Canadian family lives in Toronto, and like my grandma's like right near there and lots of family friends, and so I thought it was like perfect because it's nearish to our cottage, and I really like Toronto as a city. Yeah, it just like planets aligned for this place, so like this is perfect. I was actually really nervous to go because I had such high expectations, but it ended up being so great. So once I visited them all, it came to actual like decision time, and so I'll kind of talk you through how I made that decision and the pros and cons of each. So let's talk in the order that I talked about them before. What was that? Bath, I really liked it. It was so pretty, so sporty. My brother goes there, but again, I kind of felt that Bath, although it was such a beautiful town, like so beautiful, I would visit there any day now, but it just certainly wasn't like a busy, bustling kind of city that I was sort of looking for. So that was a bit of a no for Bath. St Andrews, I never even visited it. I didn't really give it a fair try, to be honest. It was just really far away, and again, it wasn't like a big city, it was a bit cut off, and so that was kind of a no for St Andrews. And disclaimer here, like I'm not trying to say that any of these universities are bad. This is completely just my humble opinion. Like I really don't know that much about any of them. It was just what sense I got, and so I'm hoping that this is like good advice for you, but I don't want it to like determine your decision if I just kind of got an iffy feel about it. Warwick, similarly, I wasn't a huge fan of how it's like its own campus. I kind of wanted a city. It wasn't super green, even though it did have a great PPE program, and I was really excited about that, so it was a bit of a shame. Edinburgh, I loved. That was probably my top choice out of the UK ones. I didn't feel like it had a huge politics and economics department, but maybe I'm wrong again. I was kind of just disappointed because they used to have PPE and then they like removed it, and so I think that kind of hit me quite hard. I was really upset about that. But yeah, I ended up not going there because again, it was quite far away without being like properly away, if you know what I mean. But I did really like it, like I really liked it. And then the last of the UK ones, you can kind of tell where I'm going, and I kind of gave this one away anyway. But Durham I didn't really like because that guy kept comparing it to Oxford, and that just was not what I was looking for, even though it was gorgeous. Like I know so many people love it and it's super highly rated. I just like wasn't a huge fan of that guy's talk, and it just didn't excite me. Okay, we can establish here that I went to university in Canada, and you can't really see what's a Canada flag above me. It was gonna happen. Like once I realized it was an option, it was gonna happen. I love Canada, and if you know me, I'm always talking about Canada. It's like my pride and joy. So first, Queens. I didn't really want to go there. Maybe it was something about my dad having gone there, but like it just didn't really excite me that much. Again, I think it was the fact that I felt it was kind of caught between Toronto and Montreal. It wasn't really its own big city, and I don't think it intends to be, Kingston I mean, but yeah, it just wasn't really the place for me. Okay, these are the last three, and it was actually a really hard decision. So my third choice was UBC. I really liked it, like genuinely really liked it. Maybe we'll still do an exchange year there. I liked it so much. Kind of a big downfall of it that I found out quite late was that it rains so much in British Columbia. I didn't realise that at all because obviously they have such good skiing in Whistler, but apparently it rains even more than England, which is like one of the main reasons I want to leave England. And I was like, crap, I was really rooting for you. And also, I forgot to mention this, they told me while I was there, which like literally excited me so much. During exams, UofT actually told me this as well, but during exam week, they bring in puppies to raise morale. Like they literally just let you play with puppies to make you feel better. I was like, oh my god, this place has answered my prayers. But as I said, my mum said it was too far away and she was kind of right. It is really far away. If I want to regularly be calling my family, I think 8-hour time difference makes it pretty difficult. And 12-hour flight if something goes wrong, yeah, that was kind of a shame. But as I said, I really liked it and I might still do an exchange year there because I loved it and I loved how sustainable it was. Okay, the final two, genuinely this was such a hard decision to make. It took me so long to actually decide between the two of them. I was excited about both of them for such different reasons. It was weird because I went to UofT and I was like, this place is perfect. There's like nothing better about it. It does PPE. My family all live near there. It's near our cottage. Like it's so practical. And then I went to McGill and for some reason, like when I came back and people were asking me which one was your favorite, I couldn't distinctively say UofT. I was like, well, it feels like it should be UofT, but there's something about McGill that really enticed me. It doesn't even do PPE, it doesn't have people I know around it. I just really liked it. I don't even know why, it was just a sense that I had. But I was still really torn because there were so many good things about UofT. And then I was like, I'm a sucker for online forums, and when I can't make a decision, I'm always like looking up those online forums like Quora Digest and like Student Room and stuff like that to hear people's opinions because loads of people were making the same decision between these two. And it seemed like a theme. Lots of people were saying that UofT is really studious and like people there are really smart and the standard to get in is really high, but they don't have a fantastic work-life balance. Like they kind of work all the time. And it has a huge international quotient, which is obviously like, I'm technically kind of international there as well, but I kind of wanted quite a Canadian experience too. That was a bit of a turn off because I wanted a bit of a work-life balance. And then this woman came into UofT this woman from UofT came into our school to give a talk about it and she sold it really well and I was really excited about it. And then at the very end I asked her a question. I just wanted to confirm that they did PPE and she said, no we don't. And I was like, what? Like on your website it says you do. And she was like, no we don't do it anymore. And I think that was just kind of the last straw for UofT because I just lost trust in them because I was so excited about the fact they do PPE. I don't know why, it was like hanging by that thread. But yeah, that really upset me. And although it's pretty much perfect in every way, there was just a sense that I had about McGill when I went. It seemed really fun and like from what I've heard they have a really great work-life balance there. People do work really hard and yet they have loads of fun. Montreal has a really great nightlife kind of scene. Not that I'm like some massive partier, but it's kind of enticing. And although I know it's going to be so cold, like colder than UofT, colder than all of them, I kind of don't care. I'm sure I will once I get there, but I was so excited about it. And yeah, just Montreal is a lot cheaper and I also had this kind of loophole that I found from other British Canadian people that I know who go to McGill, because you can pay Canadian fees, international fees or Quebec fees, and if you're French, or there's a whole list of conditions that qualify you for the Quebec fees, which are the cheapest ones. And one of the conditions is that if you are a Canadian citizen and your first address that you have in Canada is in Montreal or Quebec, then you qualify for the Quebec fees, and that's me. So I qualified for the Quebec fees and that was a massive plus for McGill because it makes it cheaper. And Montreal as a city is a lot cheaper than Toronto and Vancouver, which is so expensive. So yeah, this is my place. Can't wait.